I guess I should ride with Lex.
They talk about man. It's about time, so no curses to our enemies. You can try to run when you gone, that's your destiny. You gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get the wrong, but you get another legacy.
It's how to do the shit. When I do it carefully. You can lose everything you own over jealousy. When I met her, I ain't never sweat her, I just let her breathe. See you down, keep my foot on you, that's not my pedigree. At your throat, I done took her over, I pray I never leave. I'm a different guy, you're surprised, tucked in my sleeve. Boy, you fucking stupid, sold your seat for some bloody beef. True nation, cut the conversation, better keep it brief.
It's about time, so no curses to our enemies. You can try to run when you're gone, it's your destiny. You gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get to witness, don't forget another legacy.
It's about time, send the curses to them enemies. You can try to run where you going, this your destiny. Fusion gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get to witness, the beginning of a legacy. It's about time, send the curses to them enemies. You can try to run where you going, this your destiny. Fusion gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get to witness, the beginning of a legacy. They don't wanna know, we tell them, they just won't believe. It's about the journey, I ain't worried, moving at my speed. Saying we ain't much to be desired, gotta disagree. Sorry, one of mine, then we spinning like rotisserie. Go against the odds, I'm ready, this another victory. Cut different, niggas moving foul, where the referee. Moving like the military, something they ain't never seen. One West world for the people, this is what they need.
It's about time, so no curses to our enemies. You can try to run when you're gone, it's your destiny. You gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get to witness, don't forget another legacy.
It's about time, send the curses to them enemies. You can try to run where you going, this your destiny. Fusion gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get to witness, the beginning of a legacy. It's about time, send the curses to them enemies. You can try to run where you going, this your destiny. Fusion gotta fall, never rise, that's the melody. What you get to witness, the beginning of a legacy.
Yeah, on 44 shit, you know what I mean? Busy man. Look, when that shit drop, you step all the way on their neck, step on their neck and their head with that shit.
Fine in, I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I say it, nice, but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. They mad, up to solid, circle tight, yeah, vacuum seal. No, they want my life, I ain't worried, I got rank for it, I got real soldiers, kill for me, nigga, watch yourself. They said you been in beast mode lately, you is not self. When you dropping that fire, precious marriage, they inquiring. They can't stop what's coming, but I see them conspiring. Cross the line, them firing. This bitch here, finna break the spin. No kindness, I don't trust you, circle small. You can keep your features. Me and my niggas don't keep no secrets. And it feel like Jeepers Creepers. Say they want some smoke, dawg. So I brought these chimney sweeps. Coming like we coming, you can't even cap. These niggas don't run it like we running, bitch, don't even start. Bitch, I'm with my niggas till the end, till them do us part. If you wanna leave, you can leave, bitch. Bless your heart, fine in. I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel. He nice, When I see it on me, you know it's women, that bitch fully loaded. Ooh, yeah, we up and rolling. Told them I need major motion. Think I'm joking. I'ma school them niggas like they baby Jody. Got it out the dust. Now I'm too clean. Don't know why they hate me. What you want out life, dog? Guns and butter, baby boy. UPK top, dog. Certified road runner. I'ma turn that eco-line into a damn tank. I got chopper stash in the attic like they in Frank. They had that shit on lock until I snapped on them like bolt cutters. You cannot play both sides, gotta choose your colors. See, I'm throwing that one up with that W, that's my blood, bro. Fine in. I ain't show no mercy, I'm gonna show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel. I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it. Got it out the dust, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel. He's nice, but he don't show the skills how I show the skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel how I work the wheel. Ooh, I got a made, circle tight, yeah, back and seal. Said they want my life, I ain't worried, I got Ray for real.
Yeah. What's going on Israel? ISUPK.com is the website. Commander General Yohana jumping in on Officer Nakar's class, the water officer Nakar, for bringing me in, man. I appreciate it. We're going to get into a little bit of the timeline tonight because we really couldn't get into it Monday night. We got a little tied up. I was a little bit on the rant, okay, because so much was jumping off. So tonight, we're going to run down a little bit of the timeline. I want to give you a little bit of the timeline of what helped spark this off, which was all biblical. Then I'm going to add the biblical things to it just to fill in the blanks on it. So let me just start with just the timeline straight up off the top, right? Here's what happened. When in 2014, somewhere around that time, like all these empires do, they all move on one another. And what happened was the so-called rebels in Ukraine came in and overthrew the country. They overthrew the leader who was in charge of Ukraine. That leader was pro-Russian. When he had to flee, because they tried to knock him off. And when they went to go knock him off, he went up into Russia to get away. Okay, the Russians backed him up and so forth. But the Russians pretty much let it go. They came in and invaded and took over a small part of the southern part of the country. But the rest of the country was left to his own devices. That's when they put in this new president, Zelensky, and others. So now Ukraine, which is right on the border of Russia, is now going democratic, away from the communism. But it was the Lord who made the whole thing happen. Because remember, in Revelations, the 38th chapter, one of the first steps towards this timeline was Russia turning back. Russia was going along with the peace deals. Russia was trying to be compliant with the West. He was trying to work with the West, trying to go with the West. And then he got turned back. I can get the scripture if y'all want me. You want me to get the specific scripture? You know the one I'm talking about in the car where the Lord said he put the hooks in him? In Ezekiel 38, you familiar with that? You sure? Because I can pull it too.
I'm kind of, if you could.
Okay, yeah, let me pull it for you right quick. So just so we can stay on the timeline, this is what happens. And here's why the timeline is such a beautiful thing, because the timeline is one of the proofs that allow you to understand that the Most High, get Ezekiel 38, 4th chapter. I probably got started the 3rd chapter. What's good about knowing this timeline and these things that's happening right up until today is it gives you a clear understanding of why we say and know that this is biblical and that this is a biblical prophecy and that this prophecy is proof to you that all of the prophecy will come to pass. Like not only all this that you see, but everything you hear us say about nuclear war, about poverty, about starvation, about disease, about wars with other countries, about how the Third World War is going to fully envelope. You'll hear me talk some about that on the timeline tonight as well. And what you'll understand then is that the book you call the Bible, that's sitting in your house is a serious prophetic document that actually gives everybody a clear path of understanding of how the world is going to end. What I'm reading to you tonight is this is how the world is going to end. And you can believe in whatever religion you want. You can pray to whatever God you want. But what you cannot deny and will not be able to deny, especially after I lay out this timeline tonight, is that this book called the Bible laid out the end of the world chronologically thousands of years ago. It is an amazing thing to see. If you have a little bit of wisdom, it's an amazing thing that you should be saying to yourself before your eyes. You should be looking at the Bible like, this is an amazing, amazing book. Let me get back to the timeline. So here's how the Lord prophesied that it would start out. Nakar, go ahead and give me what are you in 38 and 3? Read 3:38 and 3 on down. We'll work it down a little bit, just to show them how it's supposed to start.
Sir. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and verse 3. And say, thus said the Lord, Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal.
Right. And this God is talking about Russia and the Eastern Bloc countries. When you go back in the ancient world and you look at these names, these are names of Japhetic tribes. These Japhetic tribes lived in the lands that the Russians live in right now. Russia, Turkey, all of these lands are the lands of Japheth. Japheth was one of the three sons of Noah. Noah had three sons when he came off the ship: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth is the name, these sons, Gog, Magog, Meshech, Tubal, these are the names of those sons. Now, without the understanding, you'll begin to believe that these are a Japhetic people, not the people on the land right now. But this is a prophecy for the end. And the Lord doesn't prophesy like you want him to prophesy. He don't change his records to say Russia. He's prophesying Gog and Magog and Meshech and Tubal to let you know that in the end of the world, when you look for Gog and Magog and Tubal and Meshech, to look for the people who live in that area. They may not be the original people that live there, but they are the people that live on that land. And who lives on that land right now? Russia and Ukraine, Turkey, all the Eastern Bloc countries are on that land. And so they fit this prophecy. So the Lord is letting them know, I'm against you. And here's what I'm going to do because I'm against you. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws.
Like any animal, when you put hooks in the jaws of a fish, the fish is swimming away from your boat, but he gets caught in the hook. The hook turns him around to go back the opposite way. And that's what happened in Russia. What happened in Russia is Russia was going along with the Europeans' peace plans. Russia was feeding Europe, providing wheat to Europe, providing power to Europe. Russia was turning a blind eye to the evils that were being done to the Africans by different European countries. They didn't bother it. They just let it go the way it was going. But the Lord, seeking to bring them into the Third World War, turned around and created a situation that made them turn around. And that situation was the overthrowing of the government of Ukraine, because the Russians believed, and I don't know if any of it is true or not, but the Russians believed the overthrowing of the Ukrainian government in 2014 was done by the CIA and the US. So they looked at it like, not like, oh, these are the people of Ukraine creating, going against the government, but they looked at it like this is the United States using its agents to overthrow the government, which means what? In his mind, this means that the United States is using Ukraine to destroy my country. he got turned around. Go ahead, Nicole.
If I could, sir,
Please.
just I had wrote it down because what you were saying was I never heard of it before.
Mhm.
You even said that right after they got overthrown that they turned Democratic. So it kind of looked like, hold on now, they plotting on us, right?
Exactly. They ran the president out of the country. He ran to Russia. He hid out in Russia as they brought Zelensky in and started to make the country democratic. And the Lord said, I'm going to put my hook. But that wasn't the hooks that turned around. The hooks that turned around was Russia. Russia was trying to work with the West until they did what they did on his border, which made him get up on his feet. And he overthrew Crimea, that was the southern part of the country, and he already had planned to go and fight in Ukraine to stop them from encroaching too close to his country. That was the Lord putting the hooks in them and turning them around. Give me a little bit more.
And I will bring thee forth in all thy army.
And what do we see going on right now? Russia's full of his army. Remember when they had the long convoys of tanks going into Ukraine? Now they got rockets and ships and planes and all kinds of submarines. All his forces are starting now to come out of Russia. Russia hadn't been in a physical conflict in the West in decades. And now they're all armed up, all their agents. They arrested a couple of agents. Remember when they first went in, they threw out tons of Russian diplomats out of the United States. When Donald Trump became president, they threw a whole bunch more diplomats out of the United States because once again, they looked at it as though Russia interfered now with the US's elections. And so they felt like that was like a retaliation attack. Once again, all of this is the Lord's work. He is stirring this thing up, and you're going to see how it takes it right to where it should be on the timeline. So now, after Donald Trump, they went and threw the diplomats out of Russia. They really stepped it up with Ukraine. They started offering them weapons and things like that. And so as a result, the Russians got even more concerned and said, well, now we got to do something. And the Russians then eventually turned around and invaded Ukraine. What neither side understands is that this is the Lord playing chess with them to bring everybody into the Third World War, into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And on this timeline, you'll see exactly what I mean. Go ahead, tell them where you at, the middle of fourth verse.
We are in the middle of Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 4. Horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords.
Meaning these are soldiers, and it says with all sorts of armor. And meaning they're not only just a single army, but an army filled with people from all over. That's what the Russians have mounted up. Remember, they just got together with China and Iran. By getting together with China and Iran, they opened up a world of allies, because China has a ton of Asian allies. Iran has a ton of Arab allies. And Russia themselves have a ton of allies. So now between all three of these countries, they're able to put together a massive, massive military force. And here's something I'm sure you've already heard on the news. One of the allies of Iran is Hamas. So Hamas are the same ones that invaded Israel this week. So by Hamas invading Israel, Hamas is tied to Iran. Iran is tied to Russia. So by the whole thing starting in Russia, worked its way all the way down into the land of Israel. And you'll see more of that as I go more through the timeline. I'm gonna go through maybe one more verse after this. Then I'll go back to reading the timeline, please.
So like, sir, with my knowledge and understanding of this whole situation, I find it kind of like really ironic that at this point in time that we're in right now, that something back at home will actually be the one that sparks the whole thing of World War III. Like being able to really see it really fester and come to life. Because once it was in the Ukraine, now it's handling in Israel back where we from, two people that shouldn't be in our homeland. You know, I just find it crazy that that's happening like that.
Let me tell you something. If you're a man of wisdom, if you're a man that appreciates knowledge and dark sentences and things like that, for a moment, you should not dismiss the Bible. Because let me explain to you, what you're saying is so heavy out that the Bible is looked at as almost a fairy tale book. Everybody dismisses it. Everybody says it's plagiarized or made up of other groups of knowledge and this and that. And then when you look behind the curtain, everyone that dismisses the Bible always has another book of philosophy behind it. Either they have the Muslims did it in the 60s for years. Oh, that's a white man's book. Oh, that book is plagiarized. Oh, that book is not real. But why? Because they were pushing another man's book, the Arab's book. You hear them people talking today about the Anunnaki and the Emerald Tablets and all of that. What is the book that they are dismissing? They're not saying, oh, the Quran is not real, or this book or that book is not real. They always say it's the Bible that's not important. It's the Bible that's fake. It's the Bible that is plagiarized. But here's the thing. For a book that they claim to be plagiarized, that's made up, that's a copy off of all other books, this book clearly lays out the prophecy from Ukraine to the Third World War. We're reading it tonight. So how is it such a fake book when it is the only book that totally lays out step by step how you get from the war in Ukraine, not even the war in Ukraine, from the overthrowing of the Ukrainian government straight down into the war of Israel? There's no record on this planet that explains that. But the Bible does. Like you're saying, it's amazing that it went from there to there. And it is why the Bible is such a heavy book, and why it behooves any intelligent, wise person to go into the Bible and to know the deep knowledge that's in these scriptures, because it's deeper than any book you have ever seen. And anybody that doesn't see that is somebody that just simply did not study the book. It did not simply study what was in the record and the depth of what was in the record. But we did, which is why we're laying this out for you right now. So tell them where you are.
Come in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, verse 4, in the middle. Horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords.
Well, when it says all of them handling swords, that's to let you know these are soldiers. These are soldiers coming to fight a massive army. Give me the 5th verse.
Persia.
Stop right there. This is so biblical prophecy. Because who are the Persians today? I know y'all know. The Iranians. When you go back and read the Persian and the Mede Empire, the Persians were the Iranians. How ironic that we are reading a 2,000-year-old prophecy about Russia coming together with the men that are with him, amassing a military army, and then the first ally that he has listed with him is Iran, the Persians. You can't make this up. This is too accurate, you know what I mean? This is too accurate for you to think it's anything else. Now let's get some more. Ethiopia. Keep your eye on Ethiopia, the Sudan, all of those areas down there. They are stirring up, tremendously. Yemen, the Houthis, they're all stirring up down there. Why are they all stirring up? They're part of the allies that's going to come against the West. Read on,
Question.
please.
Now I'm not too familiar, but is like Ethiopia, is that kind of like Sudan? Is that kind of like Muslim based in that region?
Well, some of them are Muslim based, some of them are not. Most of them are, but not all of them. Okay, not all of them. But here's what you will know: ethnically, they will side with the Russians. So they might be Ethiopians living in Yemen. They're gonna side with the Russians. They might be Ethiopians living in Sudan, which there are. They're gonna side with the Russians. There'd be Ethiopians living in Ethiopia as well. They're gonna side with the Russians. You see what I'm saying? The group that they made the movie Black Hawk Down. You remember that group? What's the name of it? What was that? Mogadishu or something was the main city. I forget the name of the ethnic group of the name. Well, those are Ethiopians. They won't tell you they're Ethiopians, but they're Ethiopians. They're just Ethiopians by another name. I forgot the name of it. But remember, their country was devastated also by the West, which is why you know they're going to join the Russian side. Go ahead.
Khan, and Libya with them.
And Libya with them. Libya will be a lesser power because what? What happened to Libya? The United States went in there, created an uproar. They killed Gaddafi and took over the country. Now that country is almost like a nomad country. They destroyed the government. They're barely trying to get a government together. And they hate the West. So all these different smaller groups that hate the West are going to join Russia. And here's the amazing part. We read in the timeline of how this started, and all these countries we just read, Persia, Iranians, Ethiopia, Libya, all of these countries right now are aligned with Russia and aligned against the West. You can't make this up. This is biblical prophecy. Now let's go back to the timeline if we could, okay? So we know how it's going to start. We know that it's going to start with how it started with the war in Ukraine, which of course activated Putin, made Putin stand up on his feet. The hooks was in him. He turned around. Now he's going back to his old Cold War ways of doing business in the earth. Okay? Which means what did he do? He turned around and got together with China and got together with who? Iran. Remember, they made a pact, all three of them made a pact together. And because they made a pact together, all three of them are now on one side of this great battle that's getting ready to take place. Okay, so they came together that way. Now, here's the tie down. Iran hates Israel. They believe two different things. One side hates the other side. So and here's the thing, Iran, now being closer aligned with Russia, feel far more empowered than they did in the past. Remember back during the time of Barack Obama, they made a deal to not make nuclear weapons. Then it was found out that the United States government somehow electronically went in there and destroyed their facilities. They rebuilt those facilities and went back to the table and made a deal with the United States. When Donald Trump got in office, Donald Trump ended the deal. That ending of the deal allowed the Iranians to go back to working on their nuclear weapons. The war in Ukraine empowered the Iranians to get closer to the Russians, which made it much, much harder for them to go to war with Iran, because now Iran is aligned with Russia. Now there were some other steps in the middle, but I won't go into them, like Syria being drawn in. I guess I could bring it out briefly. Syria, which is above Israel on the map. If you ever look at a map, north of Israel is Lebanon and then Syria. And Syria also was under attack from the West, if you go back to the Barack Obama days. That attack from the West on Syria made Syria also align themselves with Russia. Here's what Russia did. Russia told Iranians, you go in and protect Syria. And the Iranians did just that. They came in, they bombed the hell out of the West, got the country back to the president that was in charge, al-Assad. I believe that's his name, al-Assad. So now, go ahead.
I actually just got an update. Eritrea, which is like
Eritrea? Right.
They actually support Russia. They said that the president wanted to support for Russian invasion of Ukraine.
You mean, so now other countries, little countries, are lining up with the Russian side. Now there's others lining up with the Western side as well, which you'll hear about more too as the news comes out. All of this, every time you hear one of those countries announcing where their allegiance lies, understand what they're actually saying, whether they know they're saying it or not. They're actually saying, we will fight with you. We're taking a side. We know where we've got to fight at. That's what they're saying. Otherwise, why are they announcing that they back Russia to do this? Unless you know you backing them means what? I'm going to fight for you and with you, which is exactly what's happening. They don't even realize subconsciously they're committing themselves to the Third World War. Spiritually, they're committing themselves and their soldiers and their countries on both sides to the Third World War. That's what they're saying. All right. So like I said, Israel hates Iran and Iran hates Israel. So what did Israel do? Israel aligned themselves. Remember during Donald Trump, Israel aligned themselves even stronger with the United States. Now you have Israel with the United States, Iran with Russia, all starting in that Russian war. Now it's heating up. Here's why it's heating up. Because you have another ally of the United States that's an arch rival of Iran. You know who that is? Saudi Arabia. Remember, recently, Saudi Arabia was about to close on a deal with Israel to have normal relationships. Now, what does that mean? That means this huge oil-producing Arab country will now align themselves against Iran, another Arab country, to fight with Israel. This is unprecedented diplomacy. And it had shocked the world. Now, why was it such a problem for the Iranians? Because Israel has nuclear weapons. The Iranians either have them or are about to have them. But now you bring in Saudi Arabia, not on the side of Iran, but on the side of Israel. What does that mean? That means if Israel goes to war with Iran, Saudi Arabia will now fight with Israel. Unprecedented. Unprecedented. And what does that mean for a war? If you go to war with Iran and you have Saudi Arabia as your ally, what won't you run out of?
Oil as resources.
And what do you need to fly planes?
Oil.
What do you need to run submarines?
Oil.
What do you need for ships, tanks, cars?
Oil.
You need oil. You can't bomb Iran, who is an oil-rich country, and think that they won't bomb you and bomb you more because they got more oil than you. But if you got Saudi Arabia on your side, are you worried? You're not worried because you know you got oil. So when the Saudi Arabians aligned themselves with Israel, what do you think the Iranians thought? Iranians thought, we had better do something about this, or they will align themselves and they could possibly overthrow us, which the Saudi Arabians want to do anyway. So what did they do? Let's go support those that want to fight Israel. And in trying to support those to fight Israel, they empowered, whether directly, indirectly, or with influence, they empowered Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad and all those other groups over there. They empowered them to take a shot. Why? Because let's say they did line up Saudi Arabia and Israel. Could they wipe out the Palestinians? Of course they could. They could easily wipe them out because there'll be enough oil for them to do it. So it was in the Palestinians' best interest to come against Israel ahead of time. Why was they all stuck into this? Why did they all get stuck? Because the Lord wanted them to. He was dragging them into this valley. He's dragging them in to the valley of Jehoshaphat. What's the first scripture I asked you to hold? Was it, go ahead, Joel?
Joel, 3rd chapter, verse 9.
Yeah, that's the valley of Jehoshaphat. Y'all, can we read that? Like what you see happening here is a first strike tactic. They had to go to war. They had to do this because both sides could have lost their country. But it is the Most High is doing it. You got it in the car? Okay. Let the car read it so you can stay on that. Yeah, you stay on the computer.
This is the book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war.
You see that? Proclaim it before the Gentile. This is what the Lord told us to do. And this is why we prophesy. This is why we stand on these streets, say what we say on these podcasts, because we are letting you know that this book called the Bible is a real book with real biblical prophecies, really written by the hand of God, really inspired by the power of the Most High and His Spirit. This is not a joke book. This is not a dance book. Of course, those that hate the Lord made it a joke, made it a comedy book, made it a book to laugh with. But this book right here is no joke. This is the most serious book that'll ever come across your path. What did the Lord say? Read it again.
Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles.
Proclaim this among the Gentiles, meaning for every nation on the earth. Let them hear this. Go ahead.
God, prepare war.
Prepare war, man. Prepare themselves to get taken into a battle like they've never been taken into before.
Right.
How should they know they're going into this battle? We just showed it to you now. These biblical prophecies show you we're going into a battle.
Right.
A whole world battle on a level like you've never seen before, with the weapons and the tools that you've never seen before. These things they're going to show you in this war is going to be like nothing you've ever seen. You understand? And it is, once again, it is the Lord's making. And nobody can get out of it. Even if they decide, they say, yo, we know what's going on. We know what God is doing. We see it in the biblical prophecies. We're not going to do it. You're going to do it. You got no choice. Go ahead.
So I was talking to someone that's in the military, and I was just asking them the viewpoint. They was like, with America, they said with America got the technology that they got right now, because of how everything's advancing, they said it's going to be nasty. Exactly like you said. And then we got China. China literally, we seen them a couple years ago, blew my mind. America had to tell them, yo, stop making beaches on your shores. I was like, they even make beaches?
They were making whole islands. Whole islands that they turned into military bases. Like it was just water there. The next thing you know, it's a whole island there with a damn landing strip in the middle of the ocean. So they were able to make man-made islands. Like they sat down and thought about everything they wanted to do with this high technology. And they use this high technology, and it's, going to be, like you're saying, it's going to be horrible. Because they're going to use artificial intelligence and all kinds of other things to advance their military weapons. And as a result, it's going to bring it closer and closer and closer to a cat. You could fantasize to yourself and lie to yourself that this war is not going to happen, but you'd be lying to yourself. Like, if you're going to deal with reality is you're going to war. It is no way possible to get out of it. Every single thing that has gone on up until this point on this timeline has gone on exactly like God said it would go on. Everything else that God said on this timeline will also go exactly like God said. Now, I'm going to read about them being drawn in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, but then I'm going to go back to the timeline and show you how these steps we're at right now are going to lead to the steps that all these countries are going to have nuclear war, which is why everybody of the bloodline of the 12 lost tribes of the children of Israel should be so thankful to God to leave you this book. And you should be redirecting your life away from the carnal career that you live in. See, what a lot of people don't understand is that there are two worlds here. That's why that sister that wrote that movie, The Matrix, wrote such an amazing movie, because your life is very similar to The Matrix. Of course, it's not The Matrix, all right? You're not a battery somewhere living, in a bubble somewhere. You're a physical living being on this earth. But what you have to understand is that Satan has created a world in front of you that is not the real world. Right. The world in front of you is a fake world. The real world is what you see spilling out in the Middle East right now. And your life is not a real life. You think it is. You're going on a career and trying to have, a wonderful life and, trying to get a 401k, and you want to buy a retirement home, and you want to do this and do that. Here's what you do not know. That's the fake world. The real world is that every single thing that you have and will gain over the next several years will be wiped out in nuclear war. Everything that you hold dear as history, everything that you look at as a historical item, all of it is going to be burned up like you've never seen before. In the end of all of this, there will be no more America. There will be no history of America except for the records. There'll be nothing here left. You may not even be able to live on this side of the world because of the damage from nuclear bombs. That's the real world. Now, that's a scary thing to some people. If you've ruled over other nations and oppressed them and did so much harm to them and lived deliciously, that probably frightens you. And I understand that. But it also empowers the people who have been oppressed under you for so many years. So there's two sides to the coin. The people that have been oppressed have lived in the real world. Those who have oppressed them have lived in the fantasy world that they created because they oppressed them. But the problem is, the fantasy world is about to be destroyed. And then the real world is the only thing that's going to be left. And that real world is going to be a change in who's in charge. And it ain't going to be pretty. So just give me a little more of this in Revelation, and I'm going to go back to the timeline. I'm sorry, in Joel, the 3rd chapter.
No problem.
What verse you at?
I'll read up for everyone. We are in the book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war.
You hear that? Prepare war, man. Prepare for this war. You know what I mean? And it's such a beautiful thing. I hate to say it in that way because I know that offends a lot of people, but it's such a beautiful thing because it shows the world. This is what it shows. Here's what this shows you, or it should show you. It should show you that God is real. We walk around today all over this world and we see all kinds of horrors and tragedies and different things. And it makes you ask the question, Is God real, or is everybody just in a fantasy about God? Is the Bible real, or is this just a book made up of poems and writings of other people? It begs that question to people every day. Here's the beauty of this horrific event that's happening. It is the proof positive that God is real. It is the absolute proof that there is a God that exists that we do not see. That there is a God actually looking down at this planet and at this world. You're living the proof of it right now. You turn on CNN, you are watching the living proof that God exists because he prophesied it 2,000 years ago. That's the proof. What verse you at? I'm trying to get up there with you. Keep going.
Verse 9, sir.
Verse 9? Okay, let me jump in there with you.
Joel chapter 3, verse 9.
Go ahead.
Come. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men.
Wake up the mighty men. He's saying to get them up. Wake them up. Get them ready. Get their head together. Go ahead.
Come.
If I could, right quick. You're seeing that in Israel right now. You see how they called up 300,000 troops? They called up 300,000 troops to prepare for a ground invasion into the Gaza Strip. That's what God is saying here. Wake up these mighty men. The people that are asleep and at ease, wake them up. Go ahead.
Come. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Verse 10. Beat your plowshares into swords.
Right. In other words, get off of, farming and, living a quiet, comfortable life. But he's saying prepare them for war. Get them to start thinking about more weapons, more things like that. Go ahead.
Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears.
And that's not for the average individual. That's for these armies that are being raised up.
Right.
They're forgetting about their leisure life and entering into a military life because that's what's on the timeline of what's supposed to happen. Like after this, as we see this skirmish going on, let me tell you I'll go back to the timeline for a minute. Here's what you can look forward to seeing next. They're going to try not to escalate the situation in Israel. Now, they're still going to go in there. They're still going to fight the war, but they're going to try to measure it out so it doesn't appear so horrific that the world says you got to stop. They're going to try to measure it out, but a steady measurement to wipe them out. But here's what is not being clearly seen. What's going to happen is it's going to spill into every country around the world. You're going to see actual groups going to war with each other on other lands where the Palestinians can't get the Israelis in Israel. They're going to fight them in America. They're going to fight them in Russia. They're going to fight them in Europe. They're going to fight them in Africa. They're going to fight them in other places. All the Latino Jews that live in Central and South America, their countries sent planes into Israel, Colombia, Nicaragua, Venezuela. Many Jews live down there, and they were all up in Israel during this holiday. And so what they did was they sent planes in from their countries to try and get these people up on these planes and get them back to their country. The problem is going back to their country is not going to make them safe. Just like being a Palestinian who left Palestine and now you living in France or England or America or some other country, that's not going to make you safe. So this will spread into a wider conflict and it'll begin to blur the lines of who is a soldier and who is not. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, if I could, sir, like what you were saying that it would spill over into other countries, like today, they in New York, downtown Square, you got the Jewish people on one side on the barricade, and then you got the ones that down Palestine on one side. And the Jewish people, you already know, they Esau, so they bad mouthing, you know what I mean, talking crazy to the other side. You know, eventually we're gonna start seeing the reports, because even down in Philly, you know, the Philly Muslims going back up Palestine, you know what I mean? But they sitting down there and they protesting, and I'm pretty sure if the Jewish people get bold enough down here in Philly to go against the Black Philly Muslims, the Black Philly Muslims is gonna attack, because they gonna feel like, oh, you think that you can do that here, and then now it's gonna be a whole propaganda, and like you said.
That's something. Yeah, we on. Oh, it says go live. Yeah, yeah, that's heavy, because probably more than that. You know, you got thousands and thousands of white Jews that live in Brooklyn and different parts of New York City. You have thousands and thousands of Arabs also. And so this is about to get, you know, really, really bad in different places and in different ways. And it's part, again, it's biblical. You couldn't get out of it if you wanted to. You couldn't get around it if you wanted to. And all of this is to bring in Christ's kingdom. You know what I mean? So you're right. That's what's going to happen. That's going to be the spread. And as that spreads, here's the other thing that's going to take place. Other conflicts are going to break out in Asia, in the Orient, in Africa, which is already stirring up in Africa. You're about to now see skirmishes in different ethnic group lands. In Europe even. Paris don't want to even blink an eye because they got so many Muslims over there. You know what I mean? Who God knows what is going to happen up there. But this will spread. You know what I mean? Even though they don't want it to. Even though they'd like to contain it. We at the time of the end. And so this is going to wrap all the way within itself and expand until somebody decides they don't have a choice but to bring in, you know, weapons that, you know, take out countries, or at least bring them to their knees. What verse you at?
We are on verse 10, sir.
Okay.
Verse 10 from the top. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong.
Right. These are farming tools. So for those in these countries that are farmers and not soldiers, they're going to still create weapons. They're going to still divert from building factories and nonviolent things and turn around and make it, you know, something more important for their war. And as they go to do that, that means more soldiers involved. And when it says, let the weak say I'm strong, many of these are people that have never saw war before, or have never been in conflict, or their lifestyle has never been one of war. You know, they're just regular, average, happy-go-lucky people, but not anymore. The Lord is saying, let the weak say they're strong, because they know now that they're going to be faced with a task that they would not otherwise normally be faced with. And that task is fighting a war, fighting in the Third World War. You was going to say something? Okay. What verse you at? Let's go a little, keep on going a little bit, and then we'll jump off it.
All right. We're on verse 11, sir.
Okay.
Verse 11. We're in the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 11. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about.
That's exactly what we're seeing right now. They're gathering themselves together round about, preparing themselves to get into this battle, preparing themselves to destroy each other in this biblical prophecy, man. Go ahead.
Come, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down.
Right, cause your mighty ones to come down, meaning bring them hardcore, cold soldiers. Cause them to come down into this valley. Bring them all down in here. Go ahead.
Come, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Right. And the valley of Jehoshaphat, ironically, you want to hear something so biblical prophecy. The valley of Jehoshaphat is in southern Israel. Where did this fight break out? In the Gaza Strip. Where is the Gaza Strip at? The southern part of Israel. You can't get around it. It's extreme biblical prophecy. The southern part of Israel is where the Gaza Strip is at. It's right down going towards Egypt. It damn near connects to the Sinai Peninsula. That's how far south it is in the land of Israel. So when the Lord said to come into the valley of Jehoshaphat, if you go and Google valley of Jehoshaphat, it'll come up on a map. There you go. It'll come up on a map. And it'll show you that the valley of Jehoshaphat falls right down there in the southern part of Israel. I don't think it's on this map, though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not on this map. But you see where it says Beersheba? All right down in there is the valley of Jehoshaphat, the southern part of the country. Which if you Google it on some maps, it'll show it. But anyway, so again, I implore every brother and sister to take the Bible far more serious than you've ever taken it before. Because it is so true. And the world you live in is such a lie. Every nation's lying to you. Every leader's lying to you. All these things are lies to you, but God is not lying to you. God is the one that's trying to give you the truth about the world that you live in. And he's so merciful that he wrote these prophecies down by his prophets so that in this last day, in a time of such confusion, that you would know and understand what is going to happen and why. That's why we laying this out on the timeline, because in this time is when you're able to finally see this is what's happening with us. All right, give me some more.
And gather yourselves together round about thither, because thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord.
Right, he's saying thither cause thy mighty men to come down. Go ahead.
Verse 12. Let the heathen be wakened.
Let the heathen be wakened, all the nations. Go ahead.
And come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Come on.
For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about.
Now that's heavy. When you go before the judge and the judge gives a judgment, what comes after that judgment? A punishment.
Right.
That's why he's judging you, because you've committed a crime. He's telling you committed a crime. You know what I mean? And as you could, boy, Muhammad just texted me something that was heavy. In other words, I'm going to finish this point, now I'm going to read it. You've committed a crime, so you go before the judge. The judge finds you guilty, and the judge pronounces a sentence on you. That sentence that he pronounces on you gets carried out. Well, guess what? The Lord said, there will I do what? Stick with me, huh?
For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about.
There I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. That's where you're going to go to judge these heathen.
Right.
The Lord is going to sit there and judge them, meaning he's going to give out judgment and then execute punishments. And that's why you see a bloodbath beginning over there that's going to last a very, very long time.
Right.
And now listen to what Muhammad just sent me. Hamas just announced and put out a decree for all Muslims to commit acts of terrorism wherever they are. And it says it has people on the internet, worried and nervous, which I understand. Did I just not say that was going to happen? No, Most High Christ, that's according to the prophecy of our king. And Muhammad just pulled up the article on it right now. That's the life that you're getting ready to get caught up into. in this world if you're a part of this world. All right. Let's go on back now. All right. Now, you still, I think we can stop on the Valley of Jehoshaphat right there. Get the book of Revelations if you could out.
Book of Revelation, sir.
6th chapter, 12th verse. You need a second?
I have it right here, sir.
No, okay. I'm saying you need a brother or something.
Yeah, but it's the one.
Okay, good.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 12. And I beheld, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake.
You hear that? The scripture said this angel, John the Revelator, John was a prophet of the Lord, okay? One of Christ's top disciples. And when he was locked up in prison, like happens to a lot of prophets, he was on an island of Patmos. This island of Patmos is like in the Greek Isles. It's in that area. And just like Alcatraz or one of those prisons, they turned this whole island into a prison. Okay? And so the island of Patmos was like a prison island. They ran a big prison on it. Well, they locked John up in that prison. Okay? And if you ever go back and read the history on us, back in the year 64, they started slaughtering the children of Israel. And John turned around and gathered the children of Israel up and told them, let's work together as one. And they started working together against the Roman slaughter. And the Romans knew that John was influential. So they arrested him and locked him up so that our brothers and sisters who was now in the truth serving Christ could not come together and organize against the genocide and slaughter that they were committing against us. But it was part of the prophecy, because remember, Christ said not one stone would be left upon another. So even though John was doing his job, which was to try to protect and to keep safe all the brothers and sisters, which is what the Israelite school of UPK does. We try to protect and keep our people together and keep them from being brainwashed and seduced into listening to other nations. Because you listening to those other nations is how you get seduced into being a part of those other nations. Let me divert for a minute and I'll come right back to the timeline. You know how horrible it is right now if you are one of those Israelites that's living over there in Israel. Y'all heard tons of groups say that, right? Israel's the homeland. We ain't gonna let nobody keep us out the homeland. Y'all, you wrong, Johanna, man. What you mean we ain't supposed to be in that land? That's our land. That was an ego trip. That wasn't reality. They looked at me, how you gonna be an Israelite, Johanna, and be telling brothers don't go to the land of Israel? That's our land, man. That ain't their land. That was the dumbest thing in the world, to think that you was gonna go to the land of Israel and do what exactly? And not that I don't want to be in the land of Israel. That is our land. You're correct. And I would love to be in our land. But I'd rather be more right with the Lord than right with my own ego.
Right.
You understand? And the Lord said he's going to destroy that land. So it makes no sense for me to go there when I know he's getting ready to create the most horrific situation on the face of the earth. And that's exactly what has happened. And guess what? All the black people who came here from America, who went over there, who everybody praised, guess what? They now, and all their wonderful sons and daughters, have to join the Israeli army. If you're a citizen living in Israel, you have mandatory military service. It ain't like the United States. The United States has an all-volunteer army, meaning you don't have to go in the military if you don't want. You can be a beach bum if you decide. It's up to you. That's not the story in Israel. If you were born in the land of Israel, if you're born over there, guess what? You have to put in the minimal 2 years of military service and more afterwards, and you could be called up to active duty all the way up to 55 years old. So anywhere up to 55 years old, if they want to call you back to active duty, you got to go back to active duty. So when they called up those 300,000 troops, you can best believe that brothers and sisters who are the children of the people who came over there before are either already in that military or being called up to that military. And now, you have to go and fight and kill and slaughter Arabs for the very people who stole your identity. That's a tough call right there. Either that or you got to get on a plane and get the hell up out of there where you shouldn't have been in the first place. Go ahead.
So like you, sir, like not necessarily saying that, like, you know, the scriptures say, like, be not partaker of our sins, or you will be a part of them.
Revelation 18:4.
You'll get that, you'll get the wrath the same way they did. So, you know, you over there in that camp or platoon, wherever you at with them Israelis, you know, now here you go. If you would just listen to, they would listen to you. But the Most High in order us to do, don't get down with that. Don't go back there. You gotta be where your people is at, not over there. Now that they over there, now that they got going to the military, now they gotta worry about Hamas. You know,
They got to go kill them.
right?
They ain't got to just worry about them. They got to go kill them. You got to go take them weapons and go up in. You get ready to go up into Gaza. You're going to kill women, children, babies, men. You're going to see horrific things. Your fellow soldiers are going to be raping women, torturing men, cutting off limbs, castrating them, doing all types of horrific things that nobody needs to see. You're about to experience it all because you decided to live in a land with the people who God hates, thinking somehow miraculously God was going to give you the authority over the land. I don't want to divert too much off of the timeline, but just to bring up this, to illustrate this point as we're going into this sixth seal. Matter of fact, I'm just divert just a little longer by reading this one scripture. Let's get the 18:4 that you mentioned, all right, in the car. Hold what you got because I'm coming back to it. How we looking, you die? We good?
All
right.
Numbers are amazing, sir.
Most High in Christ.
Sir, the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people.
Now, this is John again on the island of Patmos. John was locked up in prison shortly after about 35 years after the death of Christ. He's sitting on this island in prison by the Romans who are bombing and killing his people on their way to the full destruction of Jerusalem. And while he's on this island, he's distressed over what has gone on and what is happening. But the Most High loved him and loved us. And so he gave John a series of visions that comforted John. He let John know what the future was going to be. He let him know what's going to happen to these people who are slaughtering your people, who are killing your people. Once again, if you could take the time to really learn the truth about the Bible, you will be reading an amazing book. Not only an amazing book, but you're reading about a God who is not only real, but has a love for you that you cannot imagine in the hell that you're in. You cannot imagine somebody could love you like this in this hell, but he does, which is why you know the future right now by watching this class. Because he loved you enough to make sure that this class was available for you to know what's going to happen. So you're not even going to be stressed as this place starts to fall apart. So back to John, and then back to what happened, and then back to the timeline. So John, go ahead.
I want you to make a point. It was something that you brought up about in the radio show on Monday night that was heavy. But you said, like, the way how the Most High worded it, it was like, I'm going to uphold my oath. Just sit back, I got y'all.
He said, let me perform my oath.
Come.
Like, do your part so I could do mine. Like, he wanted to do his part. He was like, do your part of this covenant, man, so I could do mine. You ain't letting me work. You know what I mean? That's like you trying to build a building, you laying down your bricks and your mortar, you making the building look good, but your partner over there asleep. You like, yo, man, do your side of the building so we can build this house. You know what I mean? You got to do your part. And you be pissed off, and that's what the Lord was saying with us. Just do your part. Be my people so I can be your God, so we can show the world that everything I said is true. Because guess what? I'm bringing it forth to you right now. So I understand what you're saying. Let me go back, because I know I'm on triple diversions right now. So let me just walk my way back, okay? So John is on this island. He's suffering. The Lord is giving him the insight to what is going to happen in the future, which comforts John and leaves a record for us. So the Lord did a twofold thing. He comforted John for what he was distressed about and turned around and left a record for us to know what was going on in the future. Okay? So go ahead, read from where you at.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 18 and verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people.
See that? John was in there and he's seeing these visions. He in this jail cell. You understand? His people was being thrown in themselves right after. He eating gruel. You understand? He hearing the stories from the new inmates. Yo, they killing us in the country. They bombing it. They're going to wipe us out. But the Lord is giving him visions and showing this. And he hear an angel say from heaven, come out of her, my people. So come on up out of there, man. Get out of this world. Get out of this lifestyle. And that's a message for you and I. That now that you see the signs of this prophecy and it's coming to pass, come out of her. I'm going to get back on the timeline. Just bear with me a second. He's saying, come out of her, man. Clear your mind of this fake world that you live in. And get ready to recognize there's a real world out here. Let me tell you something. And I don't want to divert, but let me just say one line. The animal world is the same world you live in. The only difference is you got all this facade making you think that they're not the same, when they are the same. The more mighty animals are eating the less mighty animals. The less mighty animals are trying to get away from the more mighty animals. All animals are fighting for their own survival. You get too close to one animal, they turn on you just like any other. It's no different than the jungle. But they give you the impression that it is different. Oh, we got to all love one another. That's a fake world. That's not reality. That's just reality that somebody created because they bombed and murdered everybody else around. Back to John. Okay? So let's get some more on what John saw. And then we'll work our way back to the timeline so we don't diverse too much. Go ahead.
Tom check 841.
Okay.
No problem, sir. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins.
That you don't become a part of these sins. Because these sins are some serious sins. And they've been going on for years. You've been in slavery 400 years. Don't you know that those are crimes against God? Nobody thinks about the crimes against them. Right now, the Palestinians are not thinking about all the crimes that they committed around the world with terrorism. Right now, the Israelis are not thinking about all of the oppression and the slaughter and the suffering that they did to the Palestinians. Neither one of them are thinking about, like all those Israelis whose children are kidnapped, are not thinking about how for so many years their people oppressed the Palestinians. And for those Palestinians are dying right now in Gaza, they're not thinking about all the acts of terrorism that they slaughtered people that were innocent. And God knows what other crimes over many generations in the past that we don't even know about, that the Lord knows about and has decided to punish them for. But of course, nobody can see what they do wrong. Like an animal. An animal go to kill another animal, he don't think about what he did wrong. He just kills that other animal. When that animal gets a hold of him and is trying to kill him, he don't say, let me just lay down and die because I did so many things wrong and this animal should rip me apart and eat me. He don't say that. He say, I got to get away. And he start to fight to survive and get away. That's what animals do. And that's the world you live in. Animals just fighting other animals. The only difference is the Lord. He's the difference. He's going to put a nation in here that's going to follow him and not be an animal. And that nation is going to rule the world. That's the only difference. Go ahead, Doc. Give me some more.
Come God, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
And that you don't be partakers of her sins. This is why it's so important to not follow other gods. Because when you worship other gods, you become partakers of her sins. You mentioned the black Muslims. Many black Muslims are going to join Arab countries thinking that they're going to get a name for themselves, thinking they're going to get fame, thinking they're going to have acceptance by the Arabs. They're going to join the Arabs and fight for the Arabs. And guess what? It'll be for nothing. Same with black people. I mentioned earlier, the black people that went back to Israel, who knew and found out in the records that they were descendants of the Hebrew Israelites. And instead of cleaving on to their people over here and waking them up, they left their people and went over there thinking they're going to build a new life or a more righteous life or make themselves pure because they've gotten away from the ghettos and so forth, which was all a lie. And as a result, now they have to fight on the side of the Israelis. That's why the Lord said that you be not partakers of her sins. You, blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, you are part of the 12 lost tribes of the children of Israel. You owe no allegiance to no other nation, and you are to never follow the gods of those other nations. In doing so, you bring yourself into captivity under those nations, and then you become a tool for those nations. And that applies to Christians in the churches as well. You also are following another man's God, and you are becoming police officers, and you are becoming military soldiers, and you are picking up arms to fight with these nations. And as you do those things, you are becoming a part of their sins. That's why that scripture says that. Okay, you had your hand.
If I may, sir, what you saying, sir, was so heavy. The first person I thought about when you said, how people become tools for other nations, I thought about Amari Stoudemire, who's an actual Jew, going over there and disrespecting his own people. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't come from a ghetto in a slum in South Florida. You know what I mean? And now that you got a little money because you play basketball, now you over there with the so-called Jew who's perpetrating your identity, and now you're standing in solidarity with him when he's using you as a tool for your money. When you didn't stand up for nobody, you didn't stand up for Sandra Bland, Orlando Castillo, or like Captain Zarya was bringing out, sir. You didn't speak out, or for Kanye West or Kyrie Irving. You're just being a tool for your oppressor right now. It's not.
And here's, okay, that's strong and a good ass point. But here's the point that just flabbergasts me. Here, what's his name? What's his name?
Amari Stoudemire.
Amari Stoudemire. Here's the part that amazes me. Here's a man that is a real Jew, but is following the religion of a fake Jew. But what's amazing is this. Even if you align yourself with them and all that, it's bad. But what's worse is, how is it that you align yourself with a people who clearly have oppressed the Palestinian people, and you know that your history in this country has been a history of oppression? I don't get it. I don't get it. How are you mad at people that have been oppressed for 400 years because they won't support a people who oppress other people? Like, I don't get it. If you've been oppressed, why would you support another group of people that do the same thing to somebody else that was done to you? That's like saying, I want to join the club. That's like, you know what that's like saying? That's like F you to black people who don't love the Ku Klux Klan. It's the exact same thing. The Ku Klux Klan oppressed us, and you mad at us for not supporting the Klan because we was oppressed here. The Palestinians is oppressed there. You want us to join that oppressor when we already been oppressed? You want us to be down with the same kind of people that harmed us. It's a joke. It's a joke. And it shows you how much you could be a psychological whore. Like if you allow yourself to listen to the gods and the religions of those nations, you can become a psychological whore. But I don't want to diverse too much. Was that it on Revelation 18:4? Let's go back to the other revelation so we can get back on the timeline where it said that he had opened the sixth seal. And then from there, we'll jump off. We ain't got much time. I'm going to have to do another class. Wait a minute. What's tomorrow? Thursday?
Okay.
All right. For those of you that's watching tonight, join me on Cross the Line Radio tomorrow night. I'm going to be talking about more of this, probably all week. Join me on Cross the Line Radio on Thursday night. Join me on Sonetta TV on Friday. All right. Join me on the Black Watch on the Commander General Yohana channel on Saturday. I'll be on there with Meshach Mayim. And then I'll be back on the Black Watch show on Monday for the regular scheduled show on Monday night with the other generals and all of that. So I'm gonna be on the air from, only day I won't be on the air will probably be Sunday. But I'll be on the air pretty much this week talking about this because this is a very important part of our life. It's a biblical prophecy. And for once, here's my hope. My hope is that you will examine these scriptures and examine these prophecies and realize you no longer have to go study some mystery book about the Anunnaki or some Book of Mormons or some other so-called mystery wisdom or, wisdom of the ancients and all of that. That you'll just open up the Bible and realize, you know what? All the prophecy of what is to happen is written right here. And all I got to do is learn these things from the place I'm supposed to learn it, which is the prophets of God, the Israelite School of UPK, set up in 1969, the only place in the earth that God put his name on to carry out the word of the truth. That's my hope. And so you can gain something you can gain something that you basically have been cheated out of. Right. You've been cheated out of your history. You've been cheated out of your prophecy. And you got to go running around like a child seeking out another man's God to have some spirituality and some gain and some strength. When you got a God that's better than anybody else, he gives you the whole timeline to the Third World War. He's better than all of them. You don't need crystals and voodoo and Chango, and you don't need none of that stuff. Everybody coming out with crystals or some new religion, Scientology or some other you don't need any of that. All of that's a waste of time. You need to understand the Bible. That's what you need. And you can only understand it if the Lord give you prophets, which he did. ISUPK.
Right.
That's where you get it. It's simple. It's not that difficult. All right, let's go back. Excuse me. And then I'm going to do a little on the timeline in the last 10 minutes of this show. And then I'm going to leave it alone until we get to the next time. Go ahead.
In the book of Revelation chapter 6 and verse 12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot one more. Friday night. Mawakwa, just to remind me, big shout out to Captain Mawakwa in Chicago. Friday night, I'll be on Round Table of Truth. Friday night. You can look all those up. Okay. So it'll be Cross the Line Radio tomorrow night. Sonetta TV Friday in the daytime. Round Table of Truth Friday night. Commander General Yohana channel on Saturday with Meshach Mayim. Back on Monday with Commander General Yohana channel with the generals. And I think Tuesday I'm gonna do a show on the Florida, one of the Florida podcasts with Officer Itazab and the brothers down there in Florida. That'll be on Tuesday. We've been talking about this for a few days to get all these scriptures out, all right? I think it's important we get these. So, okay, a big word again, Mawakwa, big shout out to you. All right, let's keep going. Let's finish this up, and then we'll get back on the timeline. We'll leave it at that until tomorrow.
God. And lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth hair. And a great earthquake.
Let me explain that to you. That great earthquake is a thermonuclear bomb. That's what that great earthquake is. And when it says the sun became black, you know what that means? This is what that means. The sun represents wisdom. That's why I call the sun, like the sun shine on you, it's considered wisdom. Now, because that nuclear bomb explodes, all of the wisdom of mankind wipes out. Because at that moment, like, let me illustrate it this way. Those Jews, those so-called Jews that was in Israel just a few days ago, they was at a concert, partying, having a good time, having sex in the cars, doing whatever thing they wanted to do. They were in cafes, eating, drinking, and sipping coffee, and modeling, and buying homes, and driving cars, and having babies, and going to college. And then all of a sudden, all of that changed. And that's the same thing that's happening here. When them bombs come, everything you thought you understood and knew is gone. Now, you don't have no wisdom because you don't know what's going on. Them Palestinians right now that was living in the Gaza Strip, they asking what the hell is going on? Because the Israelis is dropping bombs all over them, wiping out whole neighborhoods. So they asking themselves, yo, what is going on here? Because the life that they thought they were living is now over. And that's what's going to happen to you. Eventually, the life that you're living, the pursuit that you believe is the pursuit, is all going to stop. And everybody's going to begin to start to figure out that the pursuit everyone has to have is to obey the Lord. That's the pursuit you need, to become a high moral individual. So he said the wisdom turned what? Read it again.
And the sun became black as sackcloth hair.
Right, black as sackcloth. Sackcloth is what's used for funerals, for death. Okay? They put on sackcloth, which is like a cheap fabric. And a sackcloth is like, a sack is like what you put potatoes in. And they're cheaply woven with cheap material. So they usually dyed, in the ancient world, they were dyed and used for funerals because there was a cheap outfit that you could throw away. So it said it'll turn like sackcloth. It'll become like a garment for death.
Right.
Go ahead.
And the moon became as blood.
And the moon became as blood, meaning the understanding that they had, instead of being in an understanding, like you see how today they talk about, oh, the technology, we're going to have, driverless cars, and look at the great technology now on the cell phone. You can talk across the world on a tiny little phone, and in the future, your packages will be delivered by drone. That's the understanding now. In a minute, that understanding is going to be looked at like, if you think in that way, you on your way to dying, because the world is not going in that direction. Your understanding is going to be like blood. It's going to be like something that you die from. It's going to be, filthy, because you're going to have a new understanding that God is ruling the earth and taking it back, and everything you held dear is now about to disappear. That's what's coming on this timeline. Give me some more.
That was the end of that verse 13.
Okay.
And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth.
And when it says the stars of heaven fell onto the earth, it's talking about all your rulers, all your powerful people, all your Jeff Bezos and Donald Trumps, you understand, and Bill Gates, and all the rulers of the world. They call them stars the same way you call a star in Hollywood. They're stars because they're the ones that the people look up to. They're the ones that give direction to this world. They're the ones that this world believes in are the wise ones. Elon Musk and all of these, they're the ones they look at. All those stars, all those great leaders, the Lord said they're going to fall from heaven, meaning they're going to fall from their high status and their powerful seats and their great words of wisdom. They're going to come down from heaven and hit the earth. They ain't talking about literally being in heaven. but the heavenly life that they're living, the heavenly state that they're in. They said they had to open up a bridge just for Jeff Bezos' yacht to come into the city. They had to bring the bridge up and stop the traffic and everything so he could bring in his ship. One man, because that's the power that he possesses. That's the greatness he has. Well, he's going to come down. And not just him, in all these countries. You saw a lot of it when the war in Ukraine broke out and they started confiscating the yachts of all the rich Russians. Did you remember that? They started taking their yachts and confiscating them and freezing their money and blocking them from getting access to things. All of that is going to happen all over the world. They're coming down. That's the real world. The fake world, ooh, I want a Tesla. I want to be like Elon. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go online and do this and do that. I'm not saying don't go on there and try to make money. Go ahead and make that money. Nothing wrong with that, but don't brainwash yourself. Don't brainwash yourself to believe that there's a real future in this world when there is not. The Lord is going to destroy this world. Right. This is what he was trying to explain to John so that John would have that record to explain it to you so that you would be ready for these times. Go ahead, Al.
And if I could, sir, like coming into the school, one thing that y'all told me was money is a defense. Like, this ain't the place of our rest. Money is a defense. The money is here for us to be able to survive and make it through the days and throughout life. But money is not our God.
And that's a good point you made. And let me tell you why I say that. That's a very good point you made. Because money being a defense is a weird concept in this world. People that have money are under, and people that see people that have money are under the perception that people with money are having an amazing lifetime. Like, people are under the impression if you get millions, you got to get a Maybach. You get millions, you got to get that mansion. You get millions, man, you got to flaunt that gold. You got to flaunt them diamonds. And that's what it is all about, being rich. What do a rapper do as soon as he get a deal? He get a $10 million deal, pow, he busts out, fly clothes, gold, diamonds, chains. That's what this world teaches you. This world teaches you that wealth is to fulfill your lust. But what the Lord is saying, that wealth is a defense, a concept that's rarely understood in this world. Meaning, money is to fix problems. Money is to, stop things from happening to you. Money is to build yourselves as a people up so that you can defend yourselves. Money is to make sure that you gather yourselves together. You use your money to gather yourselves together so that you are stronger together than being separated. That's what money is. It's to defend. It's to be utilized to defend you. But once again, because we live in a fake world that we think is real, we think money is to, party in the concert. You know what I mean? Not that none of those things are wrong. What I'm saying is, your mind should not be in it as though that is what you're supposed to be doing, is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So listen, we over the time. I want to go on. I cannot, but I'm going to jump on Cross the Line Radio. Join me over there with Captain Katazar tomorrow night. I'll get in some more of these scriptures, you know what I'm saying? And we'll talk some more about that. We'll go further down the timeline, and we'll get it on, like I said, all throughout this week, man. Tawada for joining us tonight, man. Big shout out to all the brothers and sisters out there that trusting and believing in the Most High in Christ, man. You understand? Big shout out to the brothers in here with me. You understand? Officer Yediah, Officer Nakar, Officer Mathumyah holding it down with us for a while. Take me a while. Your name got to get in my brain. Okay? And we'll see y'all next time. Nakar Tawada, too, for letting me teach your class. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? See y'all next time, fam. Shalom. Should I give you this?